Yo, what's up everybody, it's Victon here with my second League Start build guide for Scourge League, and this one is likely going to be the build that I am personally going to be playing, the Stone Golem Necromancer. And I'm also going to be going over the Elementalist version too, because it's also going to be super strong. And I think I just gotta say it, y'all remember the glory days of OP carrying golems? I think this is the closest we've been to that level of damage and tankiness in the past, 4 to 5 leagues. This build is looking really good. Here's the short pitch. The League Starter has 3.5 million DPS with complete poop gear, up to 5 million with your first few primordial jewels. It gets close to 90% physical damage reduction, very high life regen per second, max chaos res, and then as you progress your character to the in-game version of the build, we're going to get all that, but now we're closing in on 20 million DPS, 80% chaos res with divine flesh as well. Pretty confident it's going to be an incredibly strong bossing character, a fantastic blight map farmer, and a great delving character. So we can do a ton of different content at a high level, which is kind of what's drawing me to it specifically. Last league I was doing a 60% quantity the feared deathless runs, and that was before all of this new damage and defenses. I think we're at about 30 to 35% more damage this league compared to last one, so it's looking pretty good. The build is in a great spot and I'm excited to share it with you guys. Also, I wanted to give you guys an idea of what this guide is going to go over, so y'all can get a good idea before you spend time watching it. I've updated the POB for both the League Start version and the min-maxed version, so you guys can see how you're going to progress your characters as you gear up over time. I'm also going to be including a leveling guide for your gems and a custom leveling loot filter for this build, all to make your league start as smooth as possible, because that is what I am all about, helping you guys out. From there, I'm also going to be having a spreadsheet that comes with all the trade links that you need to every single piece of gear that you're going to want to either buy or craft, all the way from the budget version up to the min-max version. And lastly, I'm trying out something new, like I said in the first video that I released this league, so let me know if you guys actually like it, because if you don't, I won't do it anymore, but if you do, I'm going to definitely keep doing it for you guys. It's basically an extension for either Chrome, Firefox, or what I use, Opera, that's going to let you actually build a folder specifically in the PoE trade website that has direct links to all the gear that you're going to need for this build. And it's just absolutely awesome. No spreadsheet needed, it's actually embedded in the trade website itself, so super cool. And I personally am going to be using the app for my build when I League Start. Lastly, before we dive into the path of building, I just wanted to mention that I do stream on Twitch, and I'm definitely going to be streaming the League Start, so if you ever have a question, feel free to come on over there and ask away. I'm always happy to help you guys out in any way that I can with my builds or builds in general. The link is going to be in the description below for my Twitch. Also, if you're interested in supporting the channel, I do have a Patreon link below, which is going to get you access to my Discord community, where I do personal one-on-one build reviews all the time. Alright, so enough of all that, let's hop right into the guide, and feel free to check the timestamps below if you want to skip around to certain parts of the guide. Alright, here we are in Path of Building. This is going to be the first one that we talk about. This is the League Starter version. After this, I will go over the in-game version Path of Building, but we'll start with this one here. And of course, just like I do all of my guides, I'm going to give you guys a pretty much point by point on how you're going to be leveling up this build, starting from level 1 all the way up to, I think we stopped at level 93 since this is an in-game build. Around that point, you'll probably be wanting to switch to the in-game build, and we'll go over that Path of Building here shortly. So we'll just kind of go over a few things before we get into everything, just kind of like an overview, kind of what I already mentioned though. We're going to be starting at about 4.9, almost 5 million DPS. We've got about 71% physical damage reduction, pretty good resistances, even chaos resistance capped. We've only got about 5k life, but that's not too bad, especially for only level 93. So really not too bad there, but we do have, where is it? We do have 600 life regen per second, so that's not too bad at all. Overall, I think that's pretty solid defenses, and you're going to be in a pretty good spot, especially because this is with absolute poo-poo gear. So we're going to be moving into the higher budget, of course, as you progress through your character, and you're going to be getting a lot more defenses than that. So let's go ahead and talk about the skill tree itself here. It's actually not much different from what we've been doing the past couple leagues. It's pretty similar. Of course, we are going to have masteries, which we'll chat about here pretty soon. The masteries are pretty big for us. We got a lot of damage from the masteries. And luckily last night they actually adjusted a bunch of these passives and gave them more minion damage. So pretty good there, pretty good. I think I gained about, I think I was at like 4.3 million DPS, and I went up to 4.9 million DPS this morning when they updated that. So hey, I'll take it. All right, so first and foremost, is we're really just going to be getting a lot of life and a lot of minion damage nodes, pretty much all the ones that are at least in range for us to grab. One of the more important nodes for us to get, which is pretty new, is this wheel right here. We usually typically do get this, but now we're able to also get this mastery, which is the reservation mastery. As you guys might know, they changed reservation a little bit this league, and now it's reservation efficiency, which is a buff to us actually. We're now going to be able to run 4 auras, whereas last league we were only able to run 3. So once you're able to pick this node, this wheel up here, and as well as that node, you will be able to do 4 auras. We're going to be running Skitterbots, Pride, Dread Banner, and Vitality, as well as Determination. So actually that is 5. So pretty solid. Not too bad at all. Everything else pretty much the similar. We'll talk about the mastery here. Well, I guess we'll go over each one because they go away from this list once you do click it. But for specifically this one is actually going to be this right here, 100% critical strike chance, which does not add too much. It's mainly for the in-game version of the build, which we'll chat about later. This one, what do we have here? Minions leech 1% of damage as life for this one. And then we have this one over here. This is the big boy. Minion attacks overwhelm 20% physical damage reduction. That is an absolutely huge node. Thumbs up for this one. Happy about this node. Pretty solid. One thing kind of to note here is they actually removed all the damage from these 3 nodes right here, but they gave it more area of effect. So now we have quite a bit of area effect. I think it's 60% compared to it used to be 49. So a little bit more AoE here, which is pretty nice. This node actually got changed pretty good, and I think the smaller ones got changed as well. Yep, so overall this actually gives you, let's do the math here, 20, I think it's like 54 or something like that % chaos resistance for your minions, which caps most minions out just with these 3 nodes alone. And that's not even the best part. The best part is minions gain 20% of their maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. So basically they're just getting 20% more maximum life. Really, really good. Huge note for just 1 point. That's absolutely crazy, and especially if you're doing animate guardians, it's going to make your animate guardian even more tanky and even less likely to ever die. Pretty solid. Now, of course, I didn't mention this, but it's pretty much taken in every single golem build out there. This is something that we're going to be rushing so that once we hit level 34, which is when you can equip golems, we want to have this node equipped. And that's +1 to maximum number of summoned golems. Very, very important for this build. In our League Starter version, we're going to have 6 golems, and they're all going to be stone golems. In the in-game version of the build, we're actually only going to have 4, and they are going to be all stone golems, just so you guys know. As far as the life masteries, we do have a couple things down here. We have one up here. This is +50 to maximum life, which is pretty solid. You get that pretty early on, too. Which is not too bad. I think you get that around level maybe 36, 37, 38, something like that, so pretty good early on. We have another one over here. Vitality has 100% increased mana reservation efficiency. That's what's allowing us to run that 5th aura, that being Vitality, of course. Now, one thing to note about Vitality is that you might not be able to run the full aura, so like a level 20 aura. I think I actually have mine down to maybe 10 or so. Let's just check real quick. Vitality. So mine's at level 13, and that gives me enough mana to cast all my abilities and feel comfortable. So just kind of do what you want with that as far as leveling it up or not leveling it up as much. But even at level 13, I still have 600 life regen per second, which is pretty solid. And the last one over here, we have armor mastery. So +600 to armor while affected by a guard skill. Now we're going to be going with molten shell, so it's going to be having, it's going to have a ton of armor when you have a molten shell procced. And it should be up quite a bit because we are going to have it also on increased duration. We'll talk about that here shortly, but basically it's a ton of armor and it's a really, really solid pickup right there. This one down here is 20% increased effective offerings, which is the last one over here we have for minion offense mastery. Nothing too crazy on that one, but it is a pretty solid pickup, so we're going to go and pick that one up. And then absolutely last over here, this is our defense one. We're going to have minions have +8 to all maximum elemental resistances, which is pretty crazy. Let's go over here to calculations. And you can see here that our minions are going to be around 83% maximum LE resistances and almost capped on chaos resistances. And that is just from these 4 points right here. That is super, super strong for defenses. Very, very good. Very happy about that. Cool, so that is all of the minion nodes and masteries on the tree. For our ascendancy, we're of course going to take mindless aggression first, then we're going to take unnatural strength second, And then third, we're going to take Commander of Darkness. This really helps you get your elemental resistances capped sooner rather than later on a league start situation. That 30% all is very, very solid. And then lastly, you get Bone Barrier, which is going to be immunity to bleed skills, which is pretty nice, and a little bit more physical damage reduction as well as minions have 20% more maximum life. So your minions are going to be super tanky with this build, which is really nice. And there was another change, which is pretty small, but our stone golems actually got an extra 1% life regen per second on them, which probably wasn't really needed, but hey, why not? We'll take it, right? Cool. So that is the skill tree itself. Let's go ahead and move on over to the skills. We'll chat about that. So our body armor, we are going to have a 6-link for our summon stone golems, and it's going to be in our body armor. One thing to note is a level 21-0 is better than a 20-20, just so you guys know. So get that if you can. It shouldn't be too expensive early on to grab a 21. There are a couple divination cards that you can grab. I think the Rite of Elements is one. It's a little risky to do those cards, but if you're playing in solo self-found, you can absolutely grab those cards. If not, I would just purchase one of these straight up. That's going to be a massive damage boost early on. We have Brutality, melee physical damage, multi-strike, minion damage, and impale. Now, there is other people out there. Our good friend Ethan over there is doing Pulverize. I'm not sure if he's doing it this league, but he was doing it last league, and I do think it is a really good choice. However, I think we got a little bit of extra area of effect on the tree, so having Pulverize isn't that much of an extra benefit as far as the AoE itself. So I went with Impale this time because it is going to be the higher damage output, especially because we have 6 golems here in this lower budget build instead of the 4 normal ones that you have. So you're actually going to be having more golems hitting more often. So it is actually outputting a little bit more damage than doing a different skill here. Now this changes up a little bit with the in-game version of the build, but we'll cover that at a later time. But this is what you're going to be having for your 5-link and your 6-link. So the 5-link is probably going to be actually in order here, and your 6-link is going to be an Impale. So we'll put that in last. Moving on to our weapon 1, we have Desecrate, Vitality. Again, don't level this up all the way because it is going to hurt you with mana. Just get it to a point where you feel comfortable with it. And then we're going to have Determination. Now, I wanted to mention this real quick. Determination is not updated in Path of Building right now. So we're going to have to use, and what I mean by that is, as you can see right here, it's 50% mana. That's changed in the new patch. It's going to be 35% mana, so we're getting a little bit of a buff there. So in order for me to kind of calculate all of this correctly and to get my mana reserve correctly, I did have to click Summon Skitterbots here. And I just did that as a second Summon Skitterbot, so we would apply the mana correctly to see what we would actually have. To see what our armor would be, let's check that out. So we're at 71%. If we turn on Determination, we're actually at 17,000 armor, and we're at 82% physical damage reduction. Really, really solid once we have Determination on. So we'll just click that back just so we can see the mana reservation. Just note that, guys, that in our weapon, you do want Determination, you do not want Skitterbots. Moving on here, we have in our gloves, Flesh Offering, Vol Molten Shell, which is going to be a fantastic defense for us. And that goes, like I said earlier, with this node right here, the Armor Mastery. Molten Shell is a guard skill, so that works off of that. We also have Increased Duration and Assassin's Mark. Increased Duration is pretty nice here. That actually goes with all 3 of these skills, makes your Flesh Offering last longer, your Vol Molten Shell last longer, and your Assassin's Mark lasts a little bit longer as well. So pretty solid here. Moving on, we have our auras here. We got Generosity, Dread Banner, Pride, and Summon Skitterbots. Moving on, we got our Spectres in our helmet. Now you can do a couple different things here. You can either go with an Animate Guardian or not. If you don't go with an Animate Guardian, I would put, say, maybe a Elemental Army there instead. Either Elemental Army or probably not Elemental Army because they're already gonna be almost super capped. Maybe like a Meat Shield there. So you would do Raise Spectre, Feeding Frenzy, Life Tap. You absolutely need to have Life Tap because the Spectres that we're going to be going with are 2 Carnage Chieftains and 1 Host Chieftain. Or if you have 4, you would do 2 and 2. And you get those from Act 7, the Ashen Fields. They're going to be giving us power charges and they're going to be giving us frenzy charges. So very important that you do Life Tap, otherwise they're not going to cast those charges very often because they're going to be off of mana. We want it to be off of life so that they cast them pretty often. But yeah, so then you would do Animate Guardian if you want that, and if you don't want the Animate Guardian, you would put in Meat Shield there instead. For our ring 1 in our unset ring, we're going to be doing Flame Dash, and for our second ring, we're going to be doing Convocation, and then these don't mean anything. These are because of our weapons, which we'll talk about here shortly. Moving on to our items, we're going to be getting 2 Clay Shapers. So these are pretty nice early items. They're going to give us +1 to number of golems each, so we're going to have 2. And that's what brings us from our 4 to 6. So early on when you're leveling, you're actually going to have about 4. And then once you get your Anima Stone and your Primordial Harmonies, that's when you'll go up to 6. So these are really nice early on to get you those 4 early stone golems. And you can get this at level 41. These are typically about 5 chaos a piece. I would suggest you do these as your first purchase of the league. Get 2 of these and you will be sitting pretty good. Moving on to our helmet, you do want to craft one of these yourself. Pretty easy to craft. You're just going to pick up an Elder helmet that is at least eye level 68 or above, and you're going to throw on some bound fossils. And what we're looking for here is socketed gems are supported by minion life and or the minion gem levels. That along with some life if you can get it, some resistances also would be great. One thing to note here is I did put this manually inputted line here, that 2050 armor. That's actually coming from Determination. Like I said, it was changed this league, and it is actually getting a flat 2000 and something like 2050 armor, as well as the more armor. So just note that that helmet right there doesn't actually have 2000 armor on it. I had to manually input that because Path of Building is not updated. Just wanted to mention that because I know that you guys would let me know. Moving on. So our body armor, super easy 6-link, just craft it yourself, throw on some greed essences, and you're done. Honestly, if you can get one with chaos resist as well as life, and a decent armor, right? So about the 1500 armor, you're looking really, really good. And that's honestly a pretty cheap chest that you can get right there. So not too bad. Moving on to our gloves, pretty basic gloves here. These are pretty good gloves, but honestly, you can get these for not too expensive. You know, the 42 cold, the 33 cold, those are tier 1 rolls. You don't have to get tier 1 rolls. You don't have to get the tier 1 life, and you'll be just fine. I think when I picked these up, it was towards the end of the league. I only got them for like 10 chaos. So you're going to probably find some pretty good ones though, and you're going to be surprised. The only thing I would say here though is try and get one on armor based, because we do want as much armor as possible. I think that we would probably be closer to 85, 88, somewhere in there, physical damage reduction, if I actually had armor on a couple of these pieces. Right now I do not. For example, like you can see I have energy shield gloves and I have energy shield here. If you had armor on those, you would be looking a lot better. So moving on to the boots, kind of same story here, and it's basically the same story for all of these, right? You want 1 high elemental resistance, and then you want 1 high chaos resistance. That's really good combo if you can get that. And it's the same thing for the boots, right? So 1 high elemental, 1 high chaos, and it's really good if you can get an extra suffix or an empty suffix as well, because then you can craft even more elemental and chaos resistance like I have right there. And that's how we're able to cap our chaos resistance pretty easy with that kind of strategy, right? Moving on to our amulet. This is a pretty cheap amulet to get. The only thing about it that's a little bit probably better than some of the smaller items, I would say, is that it does have a lot of all attributes. Just note that if you don't get one with a lot of attributes on it, don't worry about it. Just get on the tree. You can just pick up an extra dexterity node. Not a huge deal there. Going back to our items. Now, the reason this is a pretty good item here, what we're going for here is +1 to level all physical skill gems, or you can do +1 to level all strength. Just get one of those, and it's going to be a lot cheaper, obviously, than getting 2. Our in-game item will have both, but for our early item, we just want 1 of those, and if we can get life on it, fantastic. If you can get some resistance on it, fantastic. But if you're getting those, it's probably going to be pushing the price up just a little bit, unless you just get lucky crafting it yourself. For the anointment, we are going to go with Redemption, which is this node over here, which did get buffed as well. 20% damage and 10% increased attack speed, pretty solid. And it's pretty cheap as well. Let's see here. Yep, Sepia, Violet, and Crimson, pretty cheap. Moving on to our rings here. These are both going to be about the same. So you just want life, 1 high elemental resistance, and chaos, kind of the same concept. And if you can get an extra suffix or an empty suffix, then you can also craft +1 to minimum endurance. Getting 2 rings with both empty suffixes on them, and maybe even the amulet getting an empty suffix, you can have up to 3 minimum endurance charges, which is just going to boost your physical damage reduction even more and kind of help out with your elemental resistances as well. So pretty solid plan to get those kind of like that. Now we can do a couple things with the belt here. For damage, we are going with a Darkness Enthroned. It's a 3 chaos belt, and throwing in some jewels just like this. These are like super cheap jewels. Of course, you could get ones that had minions deal additional physical damage on there as well, and that would up the DPS significantly. But these are just super cheap. These are probably about 5 chaos each. So overall, super cheap belt just to get some solid DPS and to get some solid life on there. Moving on to our jewels, this is, of course, is the most important part of the build, and where you're going to be spending some early initial currency. It's kind of hit and miss with leagues. Some leagues, these are a little bit expensive. Some leagues, these are really cheap. Last league, they were really cheap, so we'll be curious to see kind of what they're going to be this league. Now, of course, the biggest one here is the Anima Stone. This is what's going to give us +2 to maximum golems. That's going to take us from the 4 to the 6. Or in our in-game build, it's going to take us from 2 to 4. So incredibly important to get this early. Now, there's a trick here that you can do to get this yourself. You can take a Primordial Harmony, a Primordial Might, and a Primordial Imminence, and you can sell those to a vendor, and out pops an Anima Stone. That's usually cheaper than just buying an Anima Stone straight up. So you do, of course, want 1 Primordial Might. This is going to give your golems the aggressive tag, which is going to make them go crazy and do a lot of damage and just improve your quality of life quite significantly. After that, though, we're going to be stacking Primordial Harmonies. And the reason we're doing that is because the main skill that our golems do is Slam. So that Slam is what we want to be doing pretty much all the time. Their regular melees is not as powerful, so we want them to slam as much as possible. So getting as much summon golems cooldown recovery rate is the best. So getting as much cooldown recovery on each gem is very good as well. And it goes up to 45%. So try and get up to close to 45% on all of your Primordial Harmonies if you can. Now for this one right here, we do have our large cluster, and on our large cluster, we do want Renewal and Rotten Claws. It's pretty easy to craft yourself, not too crazy. You get pretty lucky like I did with that to 3% increase attack speed, but you don't have to at all. It doesn't really improve DPS that much. But the Rotten Claws is pretty solid. That actually brings you up to 100% impale chance. And of course the Renewal is just a nice little bit of extra double damage. And you can craft this yourself probably pretty easy. I bet you can buy the base for this. And remember that you can get either an 8 passive or a 9 passive. It's really not a big deal in the beginning when you're just kind of leveling up and you're getting to in-game. Really not a big deal to have to spend 1 extra point. They're so much cheaper than the 8 passives, so just something to consider there. But you can craft this pretty cheaply yourself. So as far as our flasks, let's talk about this real quick before we move on to the flasks, because it is pretty important and goes with the flasks. We are going to be going with Soul of the Brine King for our major here, and we're going to be doing that because we want to upgrade it in the Pantheon to get You Cannot Be Frozen. So that's actually new. Instead of, it says right now you cannot be frozen if you've been frozen recently. That got patched. With this patch, it's coming to where you now cannot be frozen, period. So that is super strong. So you want to get that as early as possible so you cannot be frozen. From there, we want to get the Soul of Tukahama. Now, I'm getting this specifically because I want to be AFKing blight farming maps. I want to AFK blight maps, and it's very good for that. It's going to give you extra life it's going to give you extra physical damage reduction, which is probably going to bring us all the way up to the 90% physical damage reduction and extra life regen. So pretty solid. If you want to do more mapping, then I would suggest going with the, where is it? The one with the burning ground, this one. This is going to give you, it's not what it says right there, this Abarath, it's, what is it? It's updated to something like your ignites deal damage to you, or like the buff goes away faster. Basically, it's making ignites do not as much damage to you. So that's the option that I would do is if you're mapping, and if you're doing AFK blight farming, then you would go with the Tukahama. Perfect. Now, the reason I said that is because that takes care of freeze for us, but we got to take care of the other ailments. So we're going to go with a Chemist Ruby Flask of Dousing, and we're going to anoint it. We're going to enchant it to use when you become ignited, and then we're going to put ignite immunity on there as well. So that's going to automate that process. If you ever get ignited, it will auto use this, and you will take less fire damage, and it'll remove that ignite. So a pretty solid little setup there. For our Quartz Flask, we actually, I need to change this. We don't need the bleeding one. We actually want the shock one on this. So I'll change that for you guys, because we are already bleed immune through our Ascendancy. So on this one, you're going to have the Quartz Flask of, what is it? I think it's of grounding, so that anytime you are shocked, it's going to remove shock, and then you want to enchant it with used when you are shocked. So that's what we're gonna have for there, and then of course you can have a Quicksilver Flask on there if you would like. And we have a Rumi's Concoction on there, which is just a pretty solid choice all around for armor and for some block chance. So perfect, and that is everything that you need to know for the League Starter version, from the tree to the skills to the items. We'll just kind of briefly talk about the in-game version of the build. I'll just kind of show it to you guys at least. We won't go too in depth here, but I will at least show it to you guys, and I will of course include it in the description so y'all can check that out if you want to get a little sneak peek and see what we're doing and building towards. But yeah, pretty solid here, and that's the physical damage is without the determination on, so we're going to be pretty much at 90% physical damage reduction. We're going to have a lot more life regen, almost 800, and we are going with Divine Flesh, so we're going to have 80% Chaos Res. We're almost at 14 million DPS, and that is without our Animate Guardian, which is going to take it closer to 20 million DPS. And we also are anointing the new Prismatic Skin node, which is fantastic, +2 to all maximum elemental resistances. So lots of goodies in this. So if you guys are interested in kind of seeing what we're building towards, check out the POB for this in the description. Perfect, so let's go ahead and move on over to the next part of the guide. So this is where I have my my spreadsheet for all of the trade links that you need to level this build up, from your League Starter all the way up to a min-maxed, not necessarily min-maxed I guess, but like more like an in-game build. I think for the min-maxed, that is to be determined. I'm sure I'll learn some stuff as the league goes, and then I'll update that for a new video. But yeah, it's super easy. I've made it pretty much as easy as possible for you guys, and all you got to do is come over here, and if you want to click on a link, you just do that, and it takes you right to the link, and there you go. That is exactly what you want to buy, or you can kind of look at it and craft it yourself. And I have that for all of the items that you need for the entire build, including the jewels down here, your primordials, your anima stone, your might, all that good stuff, and then our flasks down here as well. We've got some leveling uniques down here as well. So lots of good stuff in this. Definitely check it out if you are leveling this in a league start scenario. I also have a stone golem leveling kind of gym cheat sheet, I guess you could say. So check this out if you're interested in that. That will definitely, I'll actually be using this myself. Kind of helps me progress through the campaign and kind of know what I need to be doing. The last thing I was going to mention is that I am doing this for the better trading. This is kind of what it looks like. This is my Stone Golems tab right here. As you can see, I have the Skelly Mages up there, but this one is the Stone Golems. And basically the way this works is if you get this extension here, you can get it on Opera, which is what I have. You can get it on Chrome, you can get it on Firefox. You install it, and it puts this on your regular trade website, and you can make folders for anything. You can make folders for builds, you can make folders for farming strategies. It's super, super cool. I actually like it quite a bit. But it's really good for me to share with you guys, because y'all can just kind of have it right here instead of a spreadsheet. It's just all right there, ready to go for you on the trade website. But yeah, you just click on it and it takes you right to exactly what you need. And if you're kind of curious about what I put as my, like, you know, what to filter, you can just click up here and do search listed items, and you can kind of see what I have on my list, so you can kind of tweak it if you want. Like if you want more life, you could do that if you wanted. And then if you really want, you could also just save it. You just click register current trade, and then you would save it as a new. And I also have up here, I'm going to link in this in the description as well. We're going to have a custom leveling loot filter for this build. You can download it right here. It's the Summoner leveling one. I have several others, but this is the one that I custom built for this one. This will say, this for me it says followers, but for you guys it's going to say follow. So just click that and you will be good to go. Now do note though, I wanted to mention this earlier in my last video, but I forgot. The first, I don't know, 30 minutes of a league, all filters just kind of break. So if you guys are playing exactly at the beginning of a league, just note that I am going to be working hard at getting the filter updated, but it usually takes about 15-20 minutes or so for the filter to actually update. So just kind of keep an eye on that and refresh it, and it'll work eventually. Perfect. And that is really everything to know. I guess the one thing that I could mention here is how you actually use that better trade, better Path of Exile trading is you would go over here, and in order to import my folder that I made for you guys, you would click this down here. It says import folder, and where it says import code, I'm gonna put this link in the description for you guys, and you would just come over here and you would click copy, and you would go over here and you would just paste it. It's a big long code, and there you go. Stone Golems budget version save. Easy peasy, that's all you gotta do. But yeah guys, that is all I got for this one. I am super excited for this build myself. Like I said, I'm probably going to be doing it for my own League Start build. So if you guys are interested in maybe playing this or kind of seeing how it goes, check out my Twitch stream, because I'm going to be leveling up this weekend on Twitch and answering all y'all's questions, and y'all can kind of get a first glance at seeing how the build works. I already know it's going to be a fantastic League Start. I've done it many times in the past, but I'm definitely curious to see how these buffs are going to affect the build, and if it's going to make it even easier, make us even tankier. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And if you guys do want to do this build, let me know in the comments, and let me know how y'all's experiences are with it. I would definitely love to hear. And if you guys figure out any crazy new cool things that are with this build, or maybe even carrying golems, we're always wanting carrying golems to be good, right? Let me know in the comments. I would be curious to see that as well. But that's all I got on this one, guys. I'm excited for this league, very excited. I hope you guys are too, and if y'all do pick this build, I hope y'all enjoy it and it works out well for you guys. That's all I got on this one. I'll catch y'all in the next one.